What's up everyone, Silverpone here, and today I want to talk about the evolution of Dragon Ball games, or at least the modern iteration of Dragon Ball games, starting around the era of Dragon Ball Battle of Z all the way to around Dragon Ball The Breakers. Dragon Ball Battle of Z was the first time what we have seen a Dragon Ball game incorporate the use of multiplayer, within the way of you using teams. Like, you have at least maybe like 2 players at the least to form a team against an opponent, being able to go all the way up to about 3 or 4 players at once against an opponent. So Battle of Z, a lot of people used to say that this game was also a beta for Xenoverse, which can also be testified because a lot of the things that Dragon Ball Battle of Z incorporated and showed throughout the new improvements that we've seen around this time, it was improved in Xenoverse 1. The revive functions, the quest functions. This game, however, didn't have like a lobby hub. So yeah. I also want to say that other games such as Dragon Ball Zenkai Battle Royale and Dragon Ball Sagas also had multiplayer in them. They also had like a form of this, but I also want to just restate that I'm talking about the modern games, as in, well, Battle of Z isn't modern, but the more modernized Dragon Ball games that have been on the newer consoles. Like Battle of Z, I think, started on Xbox 360. It was like one of the last Dragon Ball games for 360, I'm pretty sure. It might have been on Xbox One. I don't think it was. Xbox One was like exclusively Xenoverse 1 and Xenoverse 2. So yeah. But Battle of Z also had this cool function called like a synchronized combo. The synchronized combo gimmick was where you would attack an opponent with another person and you would sync up and just do like some really crazy combo. It was kind of like a 2-on-1 type anime moment, I guess. I also want to state that Battle of Z also has like a Z combo function as well, where multiple characters will like hit the enemy. Kakarot down the line also improved this function, and they incorporated Z combos again, but they don't just end at kicking the opponent away. They also have a finisher cutscene which results in you using like an ultimate attack, like a Kamehameha or a Gallic Gun or something like that, which is pretty cool. I don't know if Xenoverse, I'm about to explain it in a second. Xenoverse does have something similar, but it's not exactly a Z combo, so yeah. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 incorporated the use of dual ultimate attacks, however. This was an improvement from the synchronized combo that we've seen in Battle of Z. The dual ultimates in Xenoverse 2 were essentially just you using an ultimate attack with a teammate. I think the max is 2 people at once because it is, hence the word dual. But it's pretty cool, and some of the dual ultimates also have like combos in them if it's like a melee ultimate, so you're able to do like combos in there, so you kind of get like the same type of feeling, but whatever. As I said before, a lot of people said that Battle of Z was the beta for Xenoverse, so a lot of the gimmicks that were reused in Xenoverse were vastly improved. This little function right here where you're sharing energy with somebody, you don't really see this in Xenoverse, but there are functions in like the raid quest where the raider or the raid quest boss will have like a ultimate being charged up and you have to fire a certain amount of ki within a certain amount of time to do damage to him. So that's pretty cool as well. Battle of Z also was one of the first games that we were able to see characters running around. I think previous Dragon Ball games, they always incorporated like people just kind of hovering above the ground. Like if you were to play Goku or Krillin or Yamcha or anyone, they usually just, if you go to the ground, they usually just like hover around it. Like sometimes they have landing animations, yes, like you can see their feet on the ground, but they don't ever walk or run. Battle of Z showed us that yes, if you touch the ground for the first time, you can actually see your character running on the ground, which is pretty cool. That's a little minor improvement that they made that you see going on in Xenoverse 2 and as well as Xenoverse 1 and even Kakarot. Like they're starting to use that a lot, because that was just something that even when I was playing Raging Blast 2 as a kid, I was like, how come these people don't ever run on the ground? Other games probably had this as well, but again, the modern iteration of games that were introduced in the later half of around, I want to say 2014, 2015-ish, they just didn't have this function. It was weird. So yeah, it's cool to see that brought back from a long time. I know like Dragon Ball, I think Sagas had running animations, but it's been a long time since that game as well. I don't know if any of the Budokais had it. They might have, but still, it's been a while since we've seen that implemented. And things like Ki Blast in Battle of Z were also heavily improved. Key attacks in Battle of Z, looking back, they kind of feel a little bit lackluster. Not to say that if you play the game, you're not going to have fun doing the attacks. Like, you'll probably still have fun doing it. But compared to like Xenoverse and Xenoverse 2, it just feels a little bit more fluid and a little bit better. And you also have more variations of attacks in the same light. Dragon Ball Battle of Z was also the game that gave characters huge feet. From the combat to the maps to the super attacks, everything from the standard of Battle of Z had been surpassed. To take a step further, we go into Xenoverse 2. Xenoverse 2 also improved a lot of the things that Xenoverse 1 had already made better from Battle of Z. Again, that being the combat and super attacks. The maps are more or less stayed the same with maybe minor improvements, but yeah. The lobby was also bigger than the first Xenoverse game, while Battle of Z remained lobbyless, at least to the extent that you could walk around and interact with other NPCs, items, and players in a main hub. Xenoverse was also the staple for introducing the building models into our modern day, meaning buildings like you see in the anime, like Goku's house or even Capsule Corp, for instance, even Mr. Hercule's house. Other stuff too, but those are just some examples there. However, you were not able to interact or walk inside of buildings at this point in the Dragon Ball game timeline. Now, as I said before, Xenoverse introduced building models into our modern day, meaning past Dragon Ball games may have had buildings and other structures in them for sure, and I'm not sure if you were able to ever walk in buildings before in previous games like Sagas, or even the Game Boy games like The Legacy of Goku, which Kakarot was remodeled after, by the way. But to the modern day fan base or people getting into Dragon Ball games from Raging Blast 2 days, or even Ultimate Tenkaichi days, those people that have played titles such as those until where the games are now, then they would not have been exposed to buildings being interactable. Kind of like walking in and out of the buildings, you know? Unless they've played older titles that have incorporated that function. Now I want to take a look at Dragon Ball Kakarot. A lot of vast improvements can be seen in Dragon Ball Kakarot, even from the Xenoverse franchise. Some may argue that Xenoverse controls are better though. Like, if you're playing multiplayer, which Kakarot does not have, by the way, but if you're on Xenoverse multiplayer and you're fighting someone, the controls just kind of feel like homey in a way. Or even just playing offline, the controls feel just like how they should feel, you know? The graphics, though, in Kakarot and the flow of the movements definitely made major improvements. Even though these games aren't in the same format, it's cool to see how they try to improve the next game and see where improvements have been made compared to past games. At least for me. Anyways, Kakarot maps, combat flow, cutscenes, and story are all top-notch. And they're kind of what you'd expect from a modern-day Dragon Ball game, to be honest. Being that this game did come out in, I think it was 2019 or 2020, anything less than what we would have gotten would have been surprising. It's incredible to see. When I first played Kakarot, it was incredible to see how they just, you know, stepped into that and showed everybody like, yo, we can create a game that is breathtaking and it's beautiful. Like, Kakarot was amazing. If you haven't played Kakarot, by the way, I highly suggest you go play it. It's a great game. They even had things like mini games in Kakarot and items all around the open map to get to fly more in all the areas. Kakarot definitely was a step in the right direction for future games. Anyways, I want to get back on the building topic because I was talking about the building structures for a second. Kakarot also had some of the building models that Xenoverse had. Looking at Xenoverse 2's city area, the main lobby as well as the city maps, and then looking at Kakarot City, you can kind of see some resemblance, and maybe even some of the same structures. I think some of them are the same. I could be wrong, but I'll put some on the screen if they are the same, so you'll know. Now with Kakarot, not all these buildings are interactable, meaning you can't walk inside of them, but in some instances you can walk up to the buildings and they provide you with an option to enter and walk inside like Goku's house or Capsule Corp. This may seem like no big deal, but in terms of improvements, even minor improvements over time could eventually turn into something completely different, as well as better, to make future games even more immersive than they are now. Now, this may be a stretch, but down the line, I don't think it'd be impossible to see a Dragon Ball game where your character has like his own house or something. Like, if another game comes out like Kakarot, imagine like it's open world or something, but online. I could see them incorporating the use of you having like some like home or something where you can invite people in, kind of like the area in Fighter Z, like your trophy room, or Master Roshi's house in Xenoverse. It'd be cool to have something like that. I don't know if that ever happened, but it's a potential option. Anyways, Dragon Ball The Breakers may not be a fighting-centered game, but they also have building models as well. And the models in this game are all the way interactable. You're able to walk in and out of almost any buildings on the map. They may not be as textured or detailed as Kakarot, but they still made the change nevertheless. And yes, it is a survival game, so being able to go into buildings makes sense, but in Dragon Ball that doesn't mean anything. Because, you know, people can just blow up the buildings. So yeah. Making changes like these also shows that a series focusing mainly on fighting and that's it isn't scared to branch out, and it produces updates and improvements in other areas that aren't a main focus to make the project as a whole even better. So to say that caring about making building models and having open maps and even all the way just making non-fighting games like Breakers shows us that with each step the creators and the devs take, they are getting closer and closer to making the people's ideal games, at least for the Dragon Ball franchise. And I'll give credit where credit is due. It's hard to make these games and it takes a lot of effort, so going the long way to make minor changes and things means a lot, and it gives us hope to see even more things implemented in the future. And plenty of people have plenty of ideas of what can make games better, so it's safe to say that over time we will see even more improvements and updates to how they go about creating new games and captivating the audience. From the games I've talked about in this video to the last game they dropped, and now Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi 4 being over the horizon, expect to see things get even better as they are from now. And also, they may not be the changes you per se want, but I think as a whole, it's making games have a better standing for future titles. So I can understand the frustration when a game doesn't hold features that you like, or you may even think it needs more features. Just remember, making games can be crazy hard and it takes a lot. So when we see the quality of things improve, it's better to try to commend the changes instead of hating on these people's work. And these people's work, like the devs, it takes a long time, guys. Like, games they're not easy to make. These games take years, if you didn't know. A lot of people are aware, so that's why a lot of people don't criticize too hard on games, but it's definitely like a mind bender for sure. And listen, not everyone thinks about it that way, and people will continue to have their own opinions, and that's completely fine. But it's not bad to show some positivity sometimes. Anyways, this video was a bit different from the usual stuff I put out, but I hope you guys enjoyed it anyways. Let me know what you think in the comments, and also what improvements have you seen in any of these games I talked about. I'm gonna set a goal for about 10 likes on this video, so if we don't reach it, it's no big deal, but hopefully we do. Anyways guys, thanks for watching the video, and take it easy.